Welcome, everybody, to the Career Coaching SIG. This is the last one scheduled for 2024. Because, in part, I'm president-elect, so I've got other things I need to be doing next year. They don't let me do both. Um, and so, Amy Mallow, which you've seen here before and will be in the background, has agreed to take over. Round of applause for Amy. She's going to keep us going. So, happy to learn and grow with all of you still into next year. So, yay. Thank you, Amy. Right? It was kind of sad that this could have been the end, but happy that this is continuing to go. The reason why this SIG was started is because there are different topics that aren't necessarily covered in other places, like career workplace trauma, rejection sensitivity, which I did not know was in the neurodiversity sphere. Having better support for us and our clients, especially when we could so easily slip into consulting. No offense to Dr. Kevin, who is consultant, which I would just want to say that every single time, and I appreciate the branding in the background. Um,
Thank you.
so shout out to you. It's like free advertising all the time. So for this last and final time for us together, I wanted to circle back and have this be a career coach Q&A. So I tell you that as a reminder to get your questions together specific to career coaching so that we could be discussing that. All the opportunities that we have to come together. I just want to say thank you for joining me in and out of this whole year in this SIG. I'm Tiffany, in case you couldn't tell, because I changed my name. So it's in my window. And I'm hosting this SIG, helping to answer the questions. And I just want to acknowledge myself for getting my MCC since we last talked. So that was finished. Woo, so excited. That has been such a journey. So um, I know that I was very conscious of all my bad habits as a career coach, career consultant, going from ACC to PCC. So the fact that I've made it to MCC, I mean, I got stories to tell. So um, this is our chance to actually ask and answer questions. I also went back to our last gathering together to get the two questions that were left over from that group because I see we weren't really engaged on engage. And I could tell you what those questions are, but I want to also check the room. Anybody want to start off and ask their first question? Jocelyn, ready to go. Let's do this.
Yeah. Hi everyone. So I'm an internal coach. I work for an organization, and November is National Career Development Month, right? So it's being
Hey.
coaching skit, you say, right? So I was just curious, if you work for an organization, like what kind of things you do. I guess that's one kind of question, but I imagine more of the group is independent or not part of organizations. So, but my other question, which is actually more interesting to me, is just around I have no budget. So as far as career assessments, and so, obviously I know like ONET, and I have a laundry list, but I don't know, Tiffany, if you've started, because in the executive coaching SIG, they created a like a share file of different resources on different topics. And I was just curious, have we done that here? Or would that be of interest, where we all kind of put in assessments that we have used, had experience? Some are probably paid, some are not. But, so instead of like us doing like massive internet research and whatnot, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but I also tend to want to look for stuff that's scientifically sound, as opposed to just Psychology Today kinds of stuff. But so just that, I was just throwing that question out. So it was a little bit to you, to Tiffany, but if anyone has anything that they like to share as far as assessments and helping people, because my population is not young adults or kind of graduating people. My population is like 25 to 85 or something like that, right? And that's what I
Broad
was just
range.
I feel like there should be more tools um, for the adult population. So
Amen. I mean, yes, I agree, and all the things. So, two questions. What do we do as internal coaches? And then the other part are where the heck are all these assessments? Have
yeah,
not started the Google Drive. However, all the resources from the last call started putting on ICF Engage. Everybody said that they were full members, which means you're an ICF member, which means you have access to Engage. So those resources are there. Happy to start one with the stuff that we shared today. Anybody want to start? Because I saw some comments about from internal coaches. Because I could talk all day, but who else has that information? Sam, do you want to say something? You were
Yeah,
just
I'm
reaching
just
out.
sorry. Hi, Jocelyn. Nice to meet you. Yes, I am also someone who works and uses coaching skills like within an organization. And happy to connect anytime and chat. That's to anyone out here. I'm also ICF president, so it's fun to be here and be on Tiffany's space and hearing what you all are up to. Um, it depending on your organization, something that even within our network here, you can sometimes do is there are coaches who are specializing or have already kind of credentialed in certain coaches, so in certain assessments, and they sometimes may need hours or want practice. So that's just a resource within our space that can be useful. They also can give you sometimes really good rates. So you don't have to completely say, hey, I want to be, credentialed in every type of assessment, but I know that a lot of people do that within our network, which is awesome because you can say, hey, this organization really likes this, or this might resonate with them. Is there a coach that can run that little piece of it? And then you can move forward with whatever is done to unpack with the team. So it's really affordable versus having a coach come in and do the full assessment and then unpacking and then whatever coaching comes from that. There's also some online versions. This is one that I've seen in that is like a Myers-Briggs-esque. So there are stuff like that. Enneagram also has some of those, but it depends on what resonates with your organization because they all have a different flavor, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, for sure. There's a gazillion assessments out there, and like I said, there's some that are more scientifically sound than others.
Mhm.
I will share one that I have been doing a lot. I mean, I have a lot of employees, so I tend to look for something that I can scale up. But one that maybe you all are interested is Standout by Marcus Buckingham. So Marcus Buckingham used to work for Clifton Strengths. He worked for Don Clifton and helped create the Clifton Strengths assessment. And then his grandson, Don Clifton's grandson, Tom Raft, came in, and next thing you know, Marcus Buckingham's leaving and starting his own company and created his own assessments. So it's very good. I mean, it talks about your strengths. So that's one that I use. Oh yeah, the VIA character strengths for sure. That's good. That's
That was
another
the
one.
first one. Isn't that in all the trainings? That was like my very first one. Everybody take this. Know your five strengths. Went from there. Um, I not really probably where you were going with this, but the positive intelligent saboteur assessment has opened some conversations with me and different clients. So that may not have been where you were going to go with that, but whoo, has that been helpful? And I
Yeah,
could put that link
people
in the
relate to
chat as well.
saboteurs quite a bit, right?
Yes. And after you take the assessment, it talks you through like you get to recognize yourself. Be like that one and that one. And you get to like figure out which one's talking to you the most. Says my people pleaser. And then we have that opportunity to look at how how to engage your sage. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but really how to balance that out. The closest that I've been to an internal coach is working at boot camps and being a part of building out their career services programs. And then I started to find that you're a coach. So then they wanted everybody to come to me. And so like I had this whole, I got to coach my colleagues, I got to coach my boss, I got to coach my and so there was like some of all those things on top of building out the program and being more job search focused. It's kind of where I've been with that. Anybody else want to answer the questions or share their favorite resources. Are we ready for the next question? Dr. Kevin is shy. He says that he's got target training. Did you want to speak to that, Dr. Kevin?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been using, like when I'm working with people, particularly where they're trying to figure out what's the next step in their career. I always do a behavior assessment around. I like DISC because the TTI stuff is all uh, it's all it's all statistically verified. And they have a brain lab that basically shows that there's really cause and effects for that. So I like their assessments quite a bit. So I use those, and if I can be of help to anyone that would like to consider DISC or values or task preferences or what they like to do, be glad to help you through there. My promise is if you connect with me, there's no sales. I'm not going to do any sales pitch to you.
Nice. Hold him to that. Carol's got something.
So I work with a group who does Harrison assessments. And the Harrison assessment has and this is my understanding, I'm not completely sure on this yet, has an agreement with the ICF for a certification without charge. So you may want to look into that. That's what I was told. So, and the thing I appreciate about the assessment is sorry, I'm grabbing at the air because I have I have the sweater on for the first time this season, and it's sending out little plumes of things. I'm getting it looks like I'm grabbing to the air, but the thing I appreciate about the Harrison assessment is its take on a person's compatibility to the role. And they've got a lot of statistics with regard to that. And there's some deep dives into different types of roles. Particularly, I've been working with them on sales, people in sales, and matches to their role. And it breaks it down so that you can actually see what aspects of the sales cycle that you want to look at, be it the business development, the closing, bringing things along. And so it's really powerful in that way.
Yeah, I think Predictive Index has that feature. And I do like 16 personalities, not just because it's interesting to take in free, but the different aspects that it shows you, like best career, how you might show up in relationships, because it's our whole self really kind of coming together.
Yeah, Tiffany, also, this is Amy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just pipe in. I like using I'm certified in the Myers-Briggs and also the EQI, EQI Emotionally Intelligence and EQI 360, which I think is really good in terms of leadership. The EQI is really good in leadership and also really understanding how you operate in the workplace. I love the MBTI too, and I've done workshops when I was sort of more of an internal coach for a couple of different practice areas when I was in a law firm. And it really helps people understand how to work better with others on their team, and how they complement their strengths. And so those are some fun, even workshops to do, I think, internally.
Yeah. And for those on phones, I will collect all of the stuff in chat because we're just like putting out all the resources, put it in a drive and share it with all of you. And also engage in case you want to engage there as well. So we'll do that too. Any other shares or questions? Feels like this one has kind of run its course. Anybody have any other questions? Career coach related. No one seems really eager. Makes me want to bring back the question from last time. Where we ended last time, and last meeting was about embracing chaos. The last question that came up was, how do I support the client in recognizing their own expertise? And part of the context around that was, I guess I would say trusting the client enough that when they ask a question, you could find a way to navigate it back to them to answer their own question versus just giving them the answer. That makes sense. I feel like somebody wanted to say something. Maybe not. It's just me. It's me and Carol. Anybody else want to chime in on that question, or does that feel like a good question to go with our energy today? So part of, I think the example I gave last time, for those who were here, anybody remember that conversation or were here last time? No? Thank you for shaking your head, Audrey.
I also
Um,
do, Tiffany, and I think a lot of it
Yeah.
too was one of the challenges in the career coaching is when we have clients that really want us to give them answers about potential options and opportunities. And so they're kind of looking to us for ideas, you know, based on our experience in whatever industries we're on. And so it always does feel like you can be really crossing over into the consulting counseling and not in the pure coaching. And I think that's kind of started that. I think that's where we were going with that last conversation.
Absolutely. And you see why Amy's taking this over, because we're a good team right there. That's me and Amy right there. Um, eh, and part of it, one of the ways in which that showed up for me was working with a client who asked me what I thought, and I gave them choice because I thought in coaching I can get away with this if I just give them the choice. Do you want me to answer it, or would you like to explore what you really think about it? And so we went down the path of what she really thought about this topic. Should she do X or Y? And by the time we started exploring what she thought, we kept going. And I stopped and acknowledged the fact that she didn't even care what I thought. So I just wanted to, like, I brought her to that awareness. And it's like, oh, yeah. Like she was satisfied with her answer. It was just, I guess she thought she needed to ask somebody else or get it externally. So that becomes part of what we could do to lean on other people, our clients' expertise in the moment. Anybody else have tips around that topic?
I was just going to say the thing it brought up for me, and it does, is sometimes what just general coaching does is you feel, you know, you feel like you need to be the problem solver and that they're looking to you for options. And so I know that I sometimes when I have these clients, I have my own little kind of angst before it because I feel like I need to bear that burden of having them, you know, strategizing options with them, and they want the ideas. And so I think I also have to, you know, get comfortable, keep getting more comfortable doing that. But I feel like they're asking me because they want my experience to tell them what are the options, you know?
Yeah. And we can assume that responsibility, and I see you, Layla. Or we can also either give them a choice, or what I'm working on is acknowledging the fact that I feel that way. You know, I feel like you want me to give you the answers, and I would like to hear more from you. How would you like us to proceed? Like kind of going in that realm. Layla, what are you thinking?
Yes, one of the things that I learned this year from Gretchen Heido was what's really important is this contracting up front. So you know what the client, before you take them on as a client, what are they looking for? So you know they understand what coaching is and what consulting is, and do they need a coaching engagement? Do they need a consulting engagement? Do they need a consulting engagement? What do they need, and what are you comfortable to Kevin, Dr. Kevin? What do they need? What are they looking for in their outcomes? And then recontracting at the beginning of those calls of what would you like to accomplish today? And so you know which hat you're wearing. And if you do have to take your coaching hat off, you're calling that out. So when I do have to consult, I clearly delineate when I'm leaving that coaching mindset, that coaching engagement, to say, I'm putting my consulting hat on now, based on what you've asked of me. And then we can go into a consulting engagement. And I actively let them know when I'm putting the coaching hat back on. But that was something that Gretchen really challenged me with, is contracting up front. What does the client need? Are you the right person for them? That helps me feel more comfortable if there is an agreement and an understanding of the difference between the two, if I go betwixt those two engagements during these interactions.
Absolutely. I was on a contract once, and here I am thinking, well, it says coaching, Like, surely the company set them up for coaching. Dr. Kevin's still laughing. So I'm like, yeah, you must have felt this. And I'm in the middle of the conversation. I was like, you don't even know what coaching is. So now I learned that I have to, like, that's part of the agreement, right? Making sure that they understand what coaching is. And if we lose our way in the middle, it's like, you said you wanted coaching. And then revisiting that to recontract in the middle. I've even had some coaches practice on me and do that with me. So that is all part of it. Dr. Kevin?
Yeah, so one of the techniques that I've used, which keeps me closer to the coaching piece, and they know in my contracts that my experience has been, it's very rare that I get someone that only wants coaching. There's usually, as we go through the coaching, I'm recognizing, boy, this person has no tools to be successful, and they could benefit from some of the things that I can bring. One of the things I've done is, particularly from a career perspective, I have a couple like CEOs, or sorry, a couple like CTOs, or people that are one level down that want to move into the CEO position, right? And they want me to give them recommendations of how to do that, specifically. And what I have done that I found works really well is I say, find a CEO, non-competitive, right? First of all, don't go to your CEO, right? I mean, you can go to your CEO, but I find bringing an external voice into there and just asking them, say, hey, I am here. This is my vision of where I'm going, and I would like to know, would you be willing to share your experience with me of things that you have done that allowed you to be seriously considered for this position? Right. And by getting that feedback, then they bring it back into our session, and we walk through it. But it keeps me, one, it puts the responsibility on them, and two, it gives them a different perspective, because I tell them go to a non-competing industry, because a lot of the CEO type of things are very, very similar, about strategic thinking and planning and those type of things, that are important. So that's my tip for the day.
Yeah. Just one? I mean,
Just one. That's it. I'm done.
Okay, that's it. Well, that's two, because you got the certification. Yeah, and Layla's agreeing with you. Mentorship is important. I also think that example becomes important because there's no one way, especially in this market, to get anywhere. Like, nobody goes from degree to job and stay there forever. Like, there's not a path that's the same or that is static, I find. And Julia has put into the chat, as a young coach, young as in coach experience, she lets the client to fill up let's see. Oh, the simple assessment. Please, Julia, rescue me and share what you were saying in the chat.
Yes, thanks for inviting me, Tiffany. For me, I have very little experience in coaching, but what I encounter most of the client, their expectation and our expectation is not always aligned. So that is, I think it is also some kind of question to answer to the question. Like they really want the advice, some kind of advice, something like consulting. Some of the people, some of the client. That's why I make sure with them by sending them the assessment file. What is their current state? What is their expectation from this session? So to make sure we are aligned. If it is not aligned, it is not really coaching session, it's helpful for them. They understand even before starting our coaching session. So that's how I practice at this moment with less experience.
I like she said at this moment. That goes back to contracting, what Layla says. It's the focus form is what I call it, or learn to call it. I also call it pre-work. Part of how I got out of my bad habit of fix it in the middle of coaching, especially when I was practicing for the PCC, was I would give them assignments or resources between sessions. So the teaching happens between the sessions so that the call can be more focused, and having that expectation set and the focus forms is helpful. And then reiterating that in the contracting. The other thing is I know I am so tempted to not only fix it, but give advice. So if you see me on LinkedIn, you see all those posts that I make, that is me giving advice that I can't give in the call. That is, I'm just rechanneling that energy to my social media because it's gotta come out of me. And for the coaching to be pure, I just redirect it to my social media. So I'm really talking to somebody on all those posts. What are some other things that people do to leverage their clients' expertise or to um, navigate that situation when it comes up? Did we cover it all?
I also have it there's one client
Yeah.
that loves to ask these questions. And so I always say, well, what happens for you when you sit with that question? And then it kind of works for him.
Nice. So you turn that back around when you ask by asking that question. I sometimes say, well, that's a great question. What happens when you do that? Like, yeah. So I can appreciate that. The only reason why this comes up for me also is I had a situation where I kept trying to ask the questions and turn the questions back around, and I got a negative review on some contract because they were like, she would not answer my question. So it's getting to that point of setting those expectations. So clearly I did not in that case, and that was my sign.
Ooh, that resonated with me, Tiffany, for the reason I just had a similar experience where I'm working with a career client who is interviewing, right? So there's a lot of consulting happening, mock interviewing, et cetera. And one of the areas that was a need for support was like communication, thank you notes, and, post interview engagements, things like that. And I sent this person some suggested edits. I did one email for context and then just provided some suggested edits threads because I did not want to draft for her continually because that's not empowering this client. And the client didn't like it. Client wanted me to write. And so I had to come back with context that the reason I'm providing one and the rest are examples for you to intertwine them with your original is I want to empower you that after coaching, you're able and feel confident to write these yourself. And it has to sound like you to be authentic. So when you're continuing your live or virtual other communications, it doesn't sound like Coach Layla, it doesn't sound like me, sounds like you. But there's pushback in that. And I took the hit for that, the ownership. I said, next time I'll help you have context in front as to why I'm not providing it all for you up front, but this is why. So that's a great call out for accountability for myself and as other coaches that we're giving the why up front, why we're setting it up this way for empowerment down the line.
Yeah, we could give the why or we could give the choice too.
Yeah.
Like, and then that way they feel more empowered because they're like, okay, I chose this. Okay, I didn't like it. Then it's also their fault. So there's that. Jocelyn?
Yeah. Well, Carol, I think you went on mute first.
Oh.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, all right, I'll go since you say. All right, so I was just thinking, I mean, aside from the turnaround the question back to the client, I mean, I think that's good, but it is a delicate balance of, are you going to annoy them? But our jobs is to challenge them and to encourage them to think, to self-reflect and whatnot. But sometimes I do love the coached consultants because it's true. I mean, and it's a sexy place for us. I personally have spent my career as a subject matter expert. I'm still a subject matter expert in my company, but so the draw when somebody's asking me something that I have a lot of opinions about, it is, I have stepped into that doo-doo many times where I'm just go in there. But and sometimes, I mean, but I will say because I have this dual kind of role as a subject matter expert and coach, I try to identify, okay, well, if I put my hat on this or I put my coaching hat on, but the only other thing I was just going to offer, aside from what other people have already said, was just that with AI today, depending on the client and how sophisticated they are in using AI and being knowledgeable about it or how to, I said, hey, have you thrown that into Copilot or ChatGPT? You can say, act like a recruiting manager and what questions would I ask? here's a copy of like the body of my resume. How would Jocelyn answer, based on Jocelyn's resume, how would Jocelyn answer these questions that the recruiter, or sorry, the hiring manager, whoever, is going to ask, the ones that AI just identified? And, what questions should Jocelyn ask the hiring manager? What should Jocelyn write as her follow-up, kind of things. Like, I mean, I just basically try to say, to push them to do that. Now, AI is a very new space, right? So a lot of people don't know how to use it. And it's kind of like, oh, I never thought about that kind of things. And so I did meet with an employee, but I was not coaching them. They were asking me for specific information. So I said, well, let me just show you. And I was like, boom, boom, boom. Okay, all right. In 5 minutes, I just basically answered everything you want. Now, she's like, this is what they want. I was like, no, this is what AI wants. This is what AI wants to ask you. So please be very, very cautious and taking this on as a false confidence that this is the answer, the questions, the whatever. But I just think it introduces a whole new element when people don't know who to go to. I mean, but really most people should be able to think of somebody to go to. But I love the idea of going to a mentor, seeking counsel and talking to other, data gathering. But AI is this very cheap, resource that you shouldn't feel embarrassed because no one's judging you, right?
Well, I was going to say too, I've told, I had one client, I was, career coaching, again, one that, looking at options, and I'm strategizing options with him. But then, we were talking about tailoring his resume, and I said the same thing to him. I said, well, have you tried, put the piece of your resume in and ask ChatGPT to write you a professional summary? And, because I didn't want to spend a lot of time, I was more coaching him on strategy and all this. And, I would look at it, but I said, since you do need to tailor this to these various different jobs, put in the job description and see if it can help you with your professional summary. The other thing about being internal, I was just going to say, I had done some internal career coaching at a law firm, for their associates. And what I found is, a lot of it really is counseling and consulting, because they, how I want to change practice areas. Who do I talk to about getting more work? Or how do I, what I mean? It's these are people that are really asking you advice based on your knowledge of the institution. And so it really was a lot more of that type of work. I felt internally even more so than externally.
And also the assumption that the answers aren't inside of them already or in their experience.
Right, because they're not.
Yeah. In some cases, they're not. In some cases, that's part of the exploration. I see resume writing and the questions we need to ask as being interview prep, because that means that's not there. Carol was in there somewhere. Hey, there you went.
I know. So actually, Jocelyn brought up several of the areas that I was going to hit on, including AI. But one of the things that the group I'm with, I'm an external coach and have been for about 20 years. And one of the things that we lead with is our experience. And our bios scream experience. And so, a client's going to use that as a decision point in some cases and come to us for that experience, based on that experience. And, you couple that with a basic thinking that I've gained over the years in terms of someone else sitting on the side of the desk that I used to be on. The world's gotten very complex, very fast, and they feel overwhelmed. Add to that the information flow, add to that the demands of the current market. And I don't know how some of the people are still standing. And if I put myself,
some aren't.
Yeah.
If
I put myself in that position, and I said this the other day, if I hire a coach or if I ask a coach to come in, I'm going to be less, and I'm not thinking ICF right now. I'm not thinking what we're supposed to do. I'm adding the realities that I'm seeing more and more. And I would be sitting on the other side of the desk saying, I want to talk to one person, not to many. Don't differentiate between those words to me because it's all the same. And I need help. And what I don't want to be is questioned to death. I need some help. I need a lifeline. And you know, and I felt that way at times. All I need is somebody to come in and make it simple for me, and I'll take it from there. And so I think we are challenged more and more. The purity of coaching to me is being challenged. I don't know that we have the luxury of that anymore. Not in today's world. And people can argue the other side. I really appreciate and respect that. But if I'm paying a person to help me in certain ways like this, and they tell me they're a coach, and I'm going to say to them, here's your bio, here's your experience, this is what you're telling me. I want to capitalize on that whole gamut. Now you tell me how we can do that. That would be my approach. The other thing on AI, listen, I've gone to AI and I've typed in questions to, if I'm stuck on something, I've gone to AI, and I might not get back 100% correct answer, but I'm going to get enough to get me started. And that includes the stuff that I do for clients. So I'm not so sure that reality needs to be an important party to this game that we're in. We haven't really, as a industry, we haven't really taken the seriousness of what it is that is confronting executives and leaders today, and how that changes coaching. Just a thought.
I hear you on all the thoughts. What's coming up for me is how often a client comes and tells me they want something, but that's actually not what's bugging them. And that's partly why I call myself specializing in career satisfaction, because we could do all the things. And now I understand why business is called business, because it's busyness is what it really is sometimes. And they could do all the things and end up at a destination and it not be satisfying for them. So I find that sometimes where coaching can help is they may say that they want all these things, but if we're clarifying, and that's really the contracting, is if we're clarifying what they expect to get out on the other side, then it can make it easier to give them what they need, even if at the end we're answering questions. But it's the knowing how to read between the lines when they come in with their everything on fire, like that meme with the dog in the house that's burning. Like if they come in and they're like, no, it's fine, it's my job search, it's good. You can at least then ask the questions to figure out how to get them out of where they want to go. And I think in my journey to MCC, part of it was recognizing we don't have to solve all the things. It's like you can't do it in 30 minutes or 60 minutes. It's like, okay, this is all going to be very big of a conversation, multiple calls. What slice do you want to start with? Because it's bigger than the one conversation.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
What's
And
coming up
I
for
like
others?
that point
Oh, yeah.
to, Tiffany, that point
This is
about,
Amy.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt somebody?
Oh, no. I was just pointing out that this is Amy for those who can't tell.
Oh, I'm going to switch to my computer in a few minutes. I'm going to log back in, but
Okay.
I think one of the things, Tiffany, that you said too, that it really resonates is like, we have to accept within ourselves. As somebody that has been a problem solver a lot of my life and other things I've done, it brings up my own stuff of like, I'm a failure if I'm not solving their problems, and then I'm not giving them value, and they're paying for this, and I'm not and that's some of my own stuff. You know what I mean? That is bringing up my own stuff around not adding the value that I think they're expecting. And I also think, I'm sorry, who just spoke. I can't, I think it was Carol.
That
I
was
mean,
Carol.
part of the reason people do say, oh, because you've got all this experience in the legal industry. So, you know, they want my perspective and my advice on it. And so it really is tricky, you know, and I think we had a lot about this in that last discussion too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I find that people not just come to me because of the experience, and somebody showed up to me with a call today, like I felt like I should have my resume ready. I was like, if that's what you need. But sometimes they come because our experience means they don't have to fill in the blank. Like we've been through the same kind of stuff that they've been through, and they could start from where they are and not explain to somebody to catch them up to where they are. I think that's the important other
Yeah.
part in that.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carol?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all this. I guess it's more the wisdom to know how far to go with all points of view that we're after.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what Layla brought up with contracting. It's just understanding what they're expecting so that you could deliver it, whether or not it's coaching. Because if you're coaching and they don't want coaching, then nobody's happy at the end of that one. That don't feel good at all.
You know, what Jocelyn and Carol and Amy just mentioned, this is such a great place, a safe place for coaches to talk about also what can hold us back in serving our clients. And one of the things that I'm challenged with is exactly what Amy's talking about, is when you've been a SME for so long, when you've been a subject matter expert, when you weren't a coach, you feel like that is the value. But sometimes just creating the space for someone to have reflection and clarity without advisement is actually what they need. And we as coaches have to feel comfortable that that is the wisdom, that is the purest of sometimes value we can give someone, is for them to sit in space with in time that they haven't allocated for themselves to have that moment and not feel that you're not delivering value. I struggled with that as being new to transition as a coach when I started my practice, because I was always the expert. That is why people came to me. So it was a huge emotional transition for me to go to not providing advice and providing value simultaneously, and aligning that with my core values of my heart to say, you're still valuable when you're not providing advice and guidance and consulting. I had to really root with that. And I'm still rooting with that. I'm still every time having clarity for myself as a coach. I'm still having to come clear with myself and look myself in the mirror and say, did I provide the best value? Was that for me or was that for the client? And so I thank you for the
questions
space
are that way.
to explore that, and for us to feel safe as coaches to have this dialogue so that we can prep and provide the best value for our coaches, for our clients rather.
I resonate with that so much because I am also in that space where I have to get my value from other things. And one of the things that sticks out with me on that journey to MCC is they have to have the aha moment, not me, because I'll be all excited with all of them and I'll be done testified for them. But then I was like, oh, they have to have it. And so that really also shifted my perspective on all the things.
And I feel like this has been such a valuable conversation to listen to, because even if you are going to consult or help anyone with strategic work, the skills of coaching, I feel like, are what make that so much more powerful. So we talk a lot about not accidentally, mentoring or consulting within coaching, but I also feel like sometimes when you are mentoring or consulting, you'll be amazingly more powerful if you use some of your coaching tools to actually know what people are looking for. So it's not to accidentally coach people and, without their consent, but just being curious, listening, not just in doing cartwheels and all the things, what is the actual thing that people are needing. I found coaching made me an extremely better strategic planner and consultant and mentor, because I don't just show up with what I think they need. I actually try to get to it with them. So I think it's also just a really powerful tool that you all hold, even if you are going to put on the consultant or mentor hat.
Yeah. So it's about being intentional. It's like it may come together. You might want to try to keep them separate, but as long as you know what is what and you're intentional about it, you're serving the client is where it's coming down to.
Yeah, and I wanted to say where I see this coming up the most for me. So I just had an introductory call before this meeting with somebody who I've known, he knew me from my past work in the industry. And, he came to me with 3 options, and I'm going to talk when we're done. And basically it was, we're talking through the options. Where I find the biggest challenge is they're coming to me and they're saying, I don't want to practice law anymore. I don't want to be in this setting. I don't know what my options are, right? And so then I'm like, oh, there's this related, there's this, that, there's the legal tech, so that's where I find I struggle. It's like, I feel like they're asking me because they're like, I don't know what other things I can do, so that's where I feel like the crossover. Once I get to some of that, then it's like the regular coaching of, what their values are around all this. But some of that initial is wanting me to provide like ideas of options, you know what I mean? So that's where I feel it can cross over the most for me.
I think I'm tempted to hear what they see as their options, then build from there, kind of where I am with it. What if it's not, I can't contribute? What if it's when I contribute and be more strategic about it? Then it's sort of like dieting. We don't feel like we're lacking anything. We just feel like we're being tactical about it. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I'm about to have chocolate right after this. So there's that. Lisa, did you have something? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
there you go. Yes.
All right. I've been a certified ICF PCC for like the last 8 years. I'm upping my next PCC. But
Oh, you disappeared.
I didn't
I can hear you, but I can't see you anymore.
Okay, I don't know what happened. All right. My question is, for when I'm doing one-on-one coaching, I can very specifically do coaching with them. But I find if it's a company or that wants me to work with them, they don't really want coaching, they want consulting. So I struggle with that because I used to be a president and CEO of a medical device company. So I could give them a lot of different information and things, but when I'm actually selling myself, I'm selling myself as an executive career coach. So, my question is, when you're getting the work, like if I was to do corporate assignments, I've actually offered to partner with somebody that can do a leadership assessment piece, and then I could move on and do the coaching. What do you think of that? Do you think that because I am trained in some things, but I haven't, I guess where I'm hung up is I try to make them understand coaching, and I help them through a 9-step results model. And, it's values, it's goals, it's all kinds of stuff. But those are all coaching topics, which are nice. But I just find that some people, no matter how much you're telling them that we're doing coaching and stuff, they'll keep pushing to do more of the consulting. So if anybody has any thoughts or ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Before I chime in, anybody want to say something to that and speak to that?
Was I not clear?
No, you were clear. I'm wondering how many people have the same question. Is that the thing?
I'm not totally clear on the question. I'm sorry. Like I don't know if you could rephrase your question of what is the ask that you want to know or get responses on?
When you put yourself forward as a executive career coach, and you have a whole agenda for what to do, but it's the client always leads whatever you're doing. But I find that some of them really don't want to be coached. They just want here's the statement, what's the answer? Here's the statement, what's the answer? And so it doesn't always flow in a nice way. And I'm just trying to see if other people are facing this issue and what you think of that.
So it's really the client insisting on consulting, like a Q&A interrogation session, versus coaching.
Sometimes it can be that. So that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Lita has something to add.
I'm new, so I'm just going to give you my personal opinion. So I market myself as a coach and consultant. If somebody wants consulting, I'll definitely give them consulting. I mean, I'm not going to say no to a potential client that's going to pay me money. I don't understand what the hesitancy is. If it's clearly designated that, okay, what you want is consulting, and here are all the answers that you want, versus I'm not going to help you because, and I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, versus, oh, I only do coaching. But I mean, it sounds like when somebody really wants advice and you're the subject matter expert on it, I would definitely give them the consulting answers.
I think
So I'm
so.
gonna chime in and I was just gonna chime in, and there's Layla, and then Amy, and then Dr. Kevin. What I'm hearing is the challenge of you're trying to coach somebody who only wants you to answer their questions, is kind of, and how to handle that, is how I'm hearing the question. Is that about right, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, I know how to lead a conversation. I need know how to give them questions to bring them back. But yeah, they're just like, they come to the call with, here's the 10 things that they want to accomplish, instead of, okay, today's goals. We're talking about SMART goals. We're defining these things, So yes, just how to best handle those clients.
It strikes me that they may not understand what they could get from the coaching side of it. Sometimes I will do a session where it's like the introductory session, and if I answer all their questions, like their panic about the market first, then their brain could calm down and we could talk and get into more of like the coaching flow. But that's really how I approach it. It strikes me that they may not understand what they get from the coaching side of it. But I'm curious. I think Layla was next. Did you have something you wanted to say to that?
Yeah, I think it's in line with a lot of what we're talking about today, is that embodying in that coaching presence, and then also the consulting and taking in what the client wants. And sometimes the client doesn't have clarity, they're just feeling the pain point. So experiencing that, exploring that a little more with them can help to probably explore more questions about how these instances came about. I'm not sure like what the situation might be or what they're asking. Even a decision matrix situation, like, if you only have 60 minutes and they've given you this, long, exhaustive list, really what is the outcome? What is the feeling? What is the experience that this person wants to leave this coaching session, consulting session with? Circling back to that with them at the center of choice can help with that, because there could be a theme, this litany of things that they're listing, this. When you look at this list, when you reflect on that, what might it be telling you, or questions you can ask? Sometimes there's an exploration and an epiphany and a branching moment, like, wow, at the center of this, I feel like all of it's communication, or all of this may be fear of failure, or whatever it might be. Say, how about we explore this a little further? Would you be open to that, and see if we can intertwine some coaching with that, to Sam's point, to make it even more of an aha moment? Because the other thing is the empowerment of, if I fix all of this for you, tell you how to do it, what happens when coaching ends? How will you feel when coaching ends? Will you feel empowered to be able to navigate this on your own? So just more exploration perhaps can help you there about how they came about, and maybe using a focus form in advance, so you know what you're up against, instead of when they just show up on the call. What they're asking of you in advance. And I love Tiffany's tips about in between. So in between, having some of these reflections leading into that coaching or consulting engagement could be helpful.
And I'm hearing Layla sort of, to summarize what I think I heard, coaching is about calling out their need for external answers rather than answering it themselves too. So there's an opportunity just to call on what you're noticing. I think it was Amy and Dr. Kevin is where we are.
Yeah, I'm going to say something people aren't going to like.
Uh-oh. Hey now.
Which is, I think the kind of the bright line, I have my ACC, got it, but I think the bright line that's drilled on us with ICF and, the way we have to operate on recordings and everything, I think somebody else said this, like in reality, some of the career coaching really is a blend. And I think I feel like I've had to somehow really artificially separate the two for the purposes of true ICF coaching, right? But I really do feel like a lot of the type of career coaching I do, and I'm not, maybe we're putting a lot of extra pressure on ourselves. It needs to be completely separated. We need to shift this hat, but, I think Lita was going where this too. But I'm not sure all of this is really the true pure coaching. I think maybe that's somewhere in the life coaching and some other types, but career coaching sometimes really is like a mix of this stuff because, and that's, again, I'm not sure everyone will agree with me, but that was just my experience because I did a lot of coaching before I went for my certification. And it wasn't until then that I really became super focused on, wow, I am not complying or I need to shift my approach here. So anyway, that's just my thought.
Yeah, I hear you. It's not entirely controversial. I was expecting more. No, just kidding. Actually, I find that in my road to MCC, realizing that there's more conversation allowed in the MCC with the observations and the comments rather than just questions. So I find that making this transition opened me up. Maybe it gave me more permission. Because at the PCC level, now I look back and I'm like, dude, I was interrogating the poor person. Like it was just question, answer, question. Like I couldn't say anything other than like a question. And so maybe it's just the level of coaching and maybe if we loosen the reins, maybe it's still, some of it's still coaching unless we're telling them what to do. And that may not be the case. It might just be like, I noticed this and that's what I'm thinking. Anyway, Dr. Kevin, what are you thinking?
Well, I guess one of the things is, my experience has been of doing this, so I'm an ACC. I got my cert a couple of years ago, but I had, like Amy, had been doing, corporate consulting and coaching for 20 to 25 years or so. And obviously going through the certification, you recognize the difference between coaching and consulting. My experience has been is that no matter what, because I live in the corporate world, right? So anytime someone books me as a corporate coach, my experience has been is they don't know what they want, right? It 100%. I haven't had a single engagement where they didn't need coaching and consulting. And the way one is I help, that's part of the contract that they're going to get both. I'm going to physically and visually make sure that they know which kind of conversation we're in. And one of the things I found that allows the executives that really just want the answers to get them to accept and embrace the coaching pieces. I tell them up front that if you're dealing with significant reoccurring problems, that's where you're going to get the most advantage for coaching. If it's a one and done, like I'm having a problem with this manager, trying to ask them 100 questions to try to get them through that, I find is just really frustrating for them. So, I look at coaching, to me, if you want to use a baseball analogy, I look at coaching as the home run, right? For this situation, are we talking about a home run? Because if you're going to be a home run hitter, you have to be willing to strike out 9 times, right? That it's not going to come instantaneously. But once you get that, once you build that skill in particular to be able to look bigger picture, that's going to be significantly advantageous to you. Quite often what they need to do is they need to just get on base, right? That there's certain things happening, and the get on base is the consulting. The coaching is the home run. And when I hear over and over and over again, particularly since I've contracted that up front, when I'm hearing this, that's where from my experience, really need to stay in coaching until that comes, but realize that you may have 9 strikeouts before that gigantic aha happens. The advantage you'll have is it's going to remove that reoccurring challenge that you've had for sometimes it's years and years and years. So that's my philosophy. Seems to work for my executive clients.
So I'm hearing that as, and I expected him to say also go Dodgers, but there's that. So I'm hearing that as it's a strategic use of coaching, like a different analogy. If coaching were the hammer, not everything is a nail. Like, so we just have to know when to like bring that into play and be clear about it. And in the meantime, we're preparing them for coaching kind of in that way. For those who are,
and I'd say, Tiffany, that I think the thing is, where you can, I always like to be able to use what I call observation without interpretation. I always like to say is, hey, this is the 3rd session that we've had this same conversation. It seems like there'd be a great opportunity to really have this as a deep coaching session, right? So our 4th conversation is not the same thing. Are you open to do that? And when I'm having a coaching conversation, I kind of do the virtual hat kind of thing. Okay, right. That maybe we need to go to consulting, and let's do that next time. If there's an immediate need, I'm taking my coach hat off and we're there. But I want to make sure that they understand where we are in the process, right? They need to know how to listen to me. Is it the home run, or is it the get on base?
So clarity is what we need to give them. It's what I'm hearing. Lisa, what did you get from all of the things you just heard?
It wasn't different than what I've thought, but I appreciated the insight from everybody. Because I do know the difference between coaching and consulting. So that's not the question. Like I said, it's more the question on what do you do when somebody goes down the rabbit hole of just getting consulting. And I heard some good comments from Layla and Kevin and the other people that chimed in. So I get it.
Okay, cool. And for those who are also following along in the chat, sorry for those in recordings, there are focus forms showing up in other resources in the chat. So I will try to pull those out and share those back to everybody after we're all complete.
Oh, that would be great.
Nice. We're in our last 15 minutes. Can you believe that? Any other questions or comments before we land this plane?
Tiffany and Sam, do we still have the reciprocal coaching that I think it was Nina and Patty used to do? Do we still do that throughout the year?
I do not know if their SIG has complete, but there is that website reciprocoach.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going throughout the year. Like I've got 3 cohorts going.
Yeah, could be another way for us to continue conversations like this. I've had great experience with reciprocal coaching myself, where I bring my own situations to the table to work through with another coach, another perspective, preparing for my own coaching engagements and consulting engagements. So if we're doing it, I encourage people to do that here. And listen, we're a forum here together. Reach out to each other on LinkedIn, and we can do our own. I've done that too. So we're here to support each other. So if anyone wants to do any reciprocal coaching or just chatting it up about what we can do to better as coaches, that's what we're here as a community. So I encourage everyone to reach out even beyond these 6 if you need support.
Yeah, this would be a good opportunity for mentorship and the supervision SIG.
Yeah,
actually.
Tiffany,
we need to talk through it. Yes.
What was the name of that website you just said?
Reciprocoach.
Recipra Coach. Okay.
I
thank you.
totally will put the link in the chat because yeah, it's a spelling phenomenon. Is what that is.
Tiff, is there a, I went on to it very briefly. Is there a charge to it to get involved in it?
There is a charge. It's like $50.
Yeah.
So FYI, there is a charge. It's not affiliated. It's a regular place where I leveraged it because I found out about it from somebody else through LA. I leveraged it to get practice to work through my what I call a bad habit of trying to piece out my consulting from coaching. Also, it gives me a chance to record without trying to find a paid client that I need to record and not suck at because I'm very self-conscious when I'm recording. So that's how I leverage that.
I have
Well, I have
another-
one last. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so
I think that was
this is
Catherine.
actually my first session that I've gone to for, so is this is done? There's no more career coaching SIG, or is this going to repeat at some point?
This is the last one planned for this year, but Amy has agreed to take it over for next year.
Okay, great.
So in the meantime, we're like, yes, a round of applause for Amy taking this over so we can keep the conversation going. So there will be more next year. And to Layla's point, we're everywhere. So we've got this channel set up on ICF Engage through the LA side of things. And we're also all on LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, this might be a great time for everybody to put your LinkedIn links into the chat.
I have on that note, which
Yes.
I was going to follow up on, is in the spirit of continuing this SIG. Please, I'll actually put my. Let me see if I can find my LinkedIn thing. But I'm going to. If you guys can either email me or actually let me put my email in the chat. If anybody has any ideas for what they'd like to hear about next year, let me put my email in the chat and please definitely email me.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting from scratch here.
We got you. There's the her LinkedIn I just put in the chat also.
Thanks.
And what I'll do is when I send everybody the resources, I'll have her email as my CC. And then that way you could just reply back to her too. So everybody's LinkedIn, everybody's resources. Okay, anybody have any takeaways or insights that they would like to share from today's session?
I appreciate everyone grappling with how to use this skill and have ICF help us, but also deliver value to clients. It was really valuable for me to hear.
Like not feeling alone and getting validated is what I also heard from this.
I think for me, okay, go ahead, Helen.
Yes, thank you. I joined late, and so I was catching up. I appreciated the dialogue about how to work with clients and navigating their expectation of seeking a consultant and also trying to weave in the coaching questions or ways of being to help to provide them with an opportunity to see that the coaching element could be really powerful during their experience. So thank you.
I'm going to put another resource in the chat. Somebody made this amazing graph that shows like the progression and difference between directive and non-directive engagement with clients. So I'll put that in chat. What other things are people taking away from today's session?
So I just want to say sorry, excuse me, sorry that I was late. I was coming off of another meeting. I'm everything here is, I've always learned something in all these group meetings. And so thank you, Tiffany and everybody. I have a quick question. I'm scheduled to take my BCC, my board certified coach exam on, I think, 2 weeks. Is anybody here a BCC certified coach? And if so, does anybody have any practice exams or any additional information that's not already on the website? Because all they have really is an outline. If so, I greatly appreciate any assistance. Thank you.
Lisa, do you have one? And you have
Yep. No, I just had, I just wanted to clarify. You said you were going to stay on later about credentialing. Are you still planning on doing that?
For the yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then for Alita, one of the things that I like to do, spoiler alert, is through the ICFLA website, I'll go to find a coach, and whatever topic I need or help I need with, that's how, like, I'll use a search function and filter function to find a coach that way. Like, I found an assessor that way. So that would be another, and I'll just pop the find a coach link. So if you need a mentor even, that's a place to go. I would look for somebody with the BCC because I think I know somebody, but I'm gonna have to double check and get back to you on that.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Pardon me, who was the name? What was the name of the person looking for the BCC coach?
Lita.
Lita Abella.
I could also put your LinkedIn in there. Lita, what if you put your LinkedIn in chat to make sure whoever just asked found you?
I did, and I'm putting it again.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Look at us making connection.
I'd just like to
Look at
say
that.
that it's been really helpful. So there's all the details, but just having a cohort that includes people with experience in consulting too. It's like in some ways it's just theoretical for me because I'm not a consultant or I've never had that experience. So to have people that have experience on both sides is really helpful to be a part of that community and see these questions discussed with that range of experience is great.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I dig the green wall in the background there.
I think my insight of having all these discussions in some ways is like not to put like so much extra pressure on myself if you're dabbling back into consulting while you're doing career coaching, like not have to, you know what I'm saying? If I just think that somebody else said this is sort of the reality of kind of the way some of this is. And so just not to like beat ourselves up about having to make a really super right line distinction when we find ourselves sometimes crossing over a little bit into what would be, you know, formally considered advising or consulting.
Yes. It's just knowing that we're doing it is what we're aiming for.
Exactly.
No, like we stepped in it, know what we stepped in.
And don't do it on a recording, ever.
Yes. And I was gonna give Jocelyn the stepping in, like the shout out for that language there too. So any other questions or comments while we land this plane? Thank you all for coming and sharing and taking a part, even if you were just listening. It is wonderful to have you here and have this robust conversation and to feel validated and know that I'm not alone either, because we are all dealing with these same things and trying to navigate it. So thank you so much for all of that. This does conclude today's event.